Hey everybody, this is the pre-show little talkaroo that I'm starting to do now for Coffin Talk, and I got some feedback, and the feedback was, yeah, go for it. So I'm keeping them to around 4 or 5 minutes, but I just got off the Zoom call with my friend Autumn Kacian, who is this week's guest, and I'm just glowing. I'm honestly like so happy. It's so cool to go back in time and think about how we met, we became friends, and we only spent 2 years as friends in college, and we stayed friends for life after that, but not a whole lot of visits, not a whole lot of FaceTime, but people just like touch you, they get into your heart and you stay friends with them, and it's totally worth it. So I guess one of the things I want to talk about is like it's worth it to invest in your friendships. I've done it my whole life. I've often been looked at sideways because people are like, "Why would you do that for an old friend? I mean, you haven't seen them in years." But to me, there's no such thing as an old friend or a new friend. There's just friendship, and friendship is eternal. It's not something I take lightly, and you don't see people all the time, and you maybe don't talk to them all the time. But we live in this amazing age where you can really keep in touch with people, and you can just write an old friend a text that says I was thinking about you and just want to let you know, and you can also use the holidays as an excuse, New Year's Eve, Christmas, those kind of things. And another thing important that I've learned is don't worry if they respond or how they respond. They got it. You got your thought out. Like that's something I'm learning even with my son who's in Thailand. I don't talk to him nearly often enough. It's been over a year now, and I just send him loving thoughts. And I used to think that's not enough. I need like a red receipt, if you will, but that's not true. It's just worth it to send loving thoughts to people, and it's worth it to take the time to write them a letter, send them a text, or call them or leave a voicemail. It doesn't matter. But like I'm saying, don't worry about the reciprocation so much. Obviously, there's harassment. I'm not endorsing that, but I don't think anyone's going to do that. But talking to Autumn and just seeing how she's flourishing, which is absolutely the word I would use. She's happy. She's got her whole like youthful energy is there, and it was incredible. It's weird. I am saying this. I can't vouch for how other people would view it, but I don't think she and I look like we've aged that much since college. I mean, we totally have, but it's cool. Part of it, like when you see someone, you see that spirit. Like I don't think we really see each other the way we think we do. I don't think we actually look at people with these like cold, calculating eyes that see things the same way. I think whether or not it's called an aura or not, I don't call it that, but it's just you see the embodiment of the person sometimes. And so my friend Autumn, I got to speak with the embodiment of Autumn in the year 2025. She's happy, she's successful, she's got her own business. The business is in an area that's like brings up intersections from her life. We had a really heartfelt talk about like prayer and religion and its place in her life and how it comes and goes, but the spiritual doesn't come and go. That stays consistent. And also it's really cool because I've only known a few massage therapists, but it's something that I feel as I get older I'm going to start using more, not less, because I just have like knots in my back and like just stress that's accumulated over the years. And I think they are such an important and often missing part of the Western view of medicine, which is like take a pill, see a traditional doctor, but there's like actual things going on with your emotions in your body, and we talk a lot about that. So so again, this was a wonderful episode. It was so awesome to talk to her. We even texted a little bit afterwards, and I don't know, I think the main thing I want to express to people is like, please don't just think it's been too long. I can't text this person. I can't write them an email. I can't send them a message. I think that's wrong. And I think that you actually might even regret that as you get older and older, that you didn't just let someone know that they impacted your life. You still think about them and that they had a meaningful impact on your life too. Because that's what I expressed at the beginning of this interview, is that my friend Autumn, she was like a meaningful part of my growth and development in college. I had so many insecurities, so many like weird loopholes in my self-esteem, and she was just like a good, confident friend. Yeah, I forgot to bring this up with her, but I remember we went to like the school, University of Pittsburgh, would host these like rock concerts, and they would just get whatever band could come. And now that I'm older, I know that the bands who do these like hate them. They're like the worst gigs ever, but they pay. And so I remember we saw SR-71, and they played live, and they had like some hit from the 90s that I knew all the words to, but I didn't know any of their other songs. And I remember we went just because it was like a free concert, and it was just like funny to be in that like, it was just like on a street they closed off with like a real rock band playing, but not a big audience. And I don't know, that memory just surfaced. So hopefully Autumn's going to listen to this episode. I don't know. Sometimes I don't listen to everything I'm on because it's embarrassing to hear your own voice, but I hope she remembers that because it was just so funny to me. But anyway, friendship, uh, don't be afraid to change the path of your life, and how spirituality and mind and body meet each other is kind of the themes of this week's podcast. So without further delays, we'll kick it to the real interview. Bye. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Coffin Talk Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And this week, I have a very special guest. She's a near and dear friend. Her name is Autumn Kacian, and I've known her since 2001. We met at the University of Pittsburgh, where we were both students in the same class. And actually, we met because my friends and I moved to an off-campus apartment. I would not call it the ghetto, but I would not call it a safe or nice neighborhood. And it was kind of like on the cliff of North Oakland, which is a district in Pittsburgh. And she was our neighbor. She was like in the same unit. So we became friends. And this is the part where I'm going to embarrass her, but I like to tell people why I stay friends with people. Autumn was such a helpful person in my life. She gave me self-confidence, self-esteem, and she also was a leader for me in like being honest to people, but not to like hurt their feelings, but to also not just inflate their ego or like set them up for failure. So we might get into some of that later, but I'll just say that one time she took me shopping, and after that I had like immense self-confidence. I was even able to meet girls like easier, and so it was awesome. So Autumn is the best. And then as far as what does Autumn actually do, because I just told you a bunch of stuff about us when we were like 20, she's a licensed massage therapist. She's a national board certified health and wellness coach, and she's also the owner of Retreat Within. She specializes in embodiment and dysfunction of the neck and pelvis. Her work has been informed and guided by her own experiences in youth, navigating the environmental disconnect between the mind and body, and she's now helping others deepen their awareness of how this connection ripples through their life. I cannot wait to ask her questions about this, but first, hi, Autumn, how are you?
Hey, Mike. I'm well, thank you. Thank you for all the kind words.
Sure. It's cool. We actually got to reconnect earlier with the two roommates I was talking about, and we did like a four-way Zoom. So I feel like I've kept in touch with you fairly well over the years. But let's start for our audience's benefit. How old are you? Where did you grow up, and what generation, if any, do you consider yourself a member of?
I just turned 44. I grew up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which is about 90 minutes east of Pittsburgh, and I would consider myself an old millennial.
Awesome. Good answers. And now that we got that sort of stuff out of the way, I think I want to start with you about like your youth, because you said that you were like noticing things about the mind body connection in your youth, but you weren't quite there. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yeah, yes.
So like what like talking as an adult now, reflecting, like what was your youth like? Was it confusing? Was it
Um, I think I generally had a good youth. I definitely was raised by parents and family that showed me love and showed me what it was like to be cared for. And I did have friends, and my parents made sure that I got into activities and tried out different interests or explored different interests. Um, but I always had these really big emotions that I felt, and I was always told I was either too sensitive or, I need to, just really not feel the way that I was feeling, and that would further upset me or further spiral how I was feeling about things, and then and so I just kind of noticed how that would make me feel. And, I would get a stomach ache, or I would just, feel kind of, now I know it would be anxious, but, not really understanding that and not really knowing that um, my big emotions were connected to how I was feeling in my body.
Yeah, that's it's terrifying. I'm putting air quotes on for people not watching, because I have two young daughters, and the older one is of the age where she can be emotional, and I'm so cautious when this happens, because I'm like a guy raised like a guy in the 80s. It doesn't mean that guys are like me, but I was raised to like shut up, don't be emotional, and whatever you do, don't admit to like your emotions. So like with her, it's a huge paradox, because it's exactly what you're saying. Like, I don't want to dismiss her emotions, but I also don't want to like fan them up. So what, looking back, like what could have an adult have said differently, or how could they have helped you differently, do you think?
Right. I mean, that's so fair. And that's like the same situation, that my father had. And so, my parents were doing the best they could because that's how they were raised,
Yeah.
right? They were just doing what they knew. And so, as a man in the 60s, early 70s, you didn't show your emotions. You didn't talk about how you felt. You just had to internalize everything and do what you had to do. Um, and as a child and as an adult, like, now I can see that sometimes that, affects your mood and how you feel because that's not a really healthy response to those things. So I guess what would have helped me the most would have just been to have a conversation, that we all do feel things differently, that, just because I'm not experiencing it the same way that you're experiencing it doesn't mean that it's what you're experiencing is wrong, or that you need to do what I'm doing, but, just kind of having more communication about the different ways of being.
And what about I'm gonna jump to a future topic and then I'm gonna come back to some of this. But when people hear massage therapy, like there's a million connotations with that, and especially the word massage sounds like relaxing and all that. I've only had a few massages, but I actually found them to be like intense. Like they were not like I mean maybe after the fact they were relaxing. So I'm just curious, like uh is it like more therapy or is it more massage or is it exactly half half?
That's a good question. And I think a lot of that depends on the practitioner and, how they choose to work. For me, a lot of my work is communication based. What is it that the client is looking for? Are you looking for just a relaxing experience? Are you looking to work out a problem? Are you having a pain or an ache that's been chronic that is affecting your range of motion, how you're feeling, and the things that you want to do? So, based on why the person is coming in, that will tell how the session is ran. So, I like to tell people that there's a fine line between a good hurt and I'm hurting you. If that's the type
Yeah.
of massage that we end up doing, a lot of people do want a deep tissue massage. My experience, people will relay that if they're not feeling it, if they can't feel it, then they don't think that anything's happening. But that is absolutely not true. And so,
Wow.
well, also a large part of my job is education and trying to, change that narrative and just really try to explain that that's not necessarily true and a lot of times not true at all. But if that's the, intention that you have and that's what you've been thinking about when you have been thinking about your appointment, and then you come in and you want this deep massage, and then you get a massage that's maybe more relaxing, you're going to feel really disappointed with the experience because it's not what you thought you were getting.
That's great answers, and like that actually helps me a lot. I'm like one of those like do it harder, and then I start screaming. But I know that to me, like all the pain that's locked up in my upper back, because that's where it all is. Um, I feel like it could never come out. Is that like true? Like what lies am I telling myself? And again, if you don't know the answer to these, I'm just asking Mike questions. But
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of different philosophies as to why we feel the way that we feel, right? So there are perpetuating factors, the things that we're doing every day, how we're using our body, the positions that we're finding ourselves in most of the day. That will definitely contribute to how your body's feeling. So, if you're sleeping in a weird position or you're, doing an activity that's like one sided or like you're using your body in a less symmetrical way, those are going to add to
mm,
your discomfort. If none of that stuff is going on, there's also, we can feel, I have a lot of clients that will come in that they've had chronic pain, they've seen all the doctors that they could possibly think of, and they're told that there's nothing wrong with them. And so at that point, you kind of have to start looking at, like the bigger picture and what's, all of the pieces of your life. And so at that point, that's where our emotions come into play and how we felt when certain things have happened to us and or haven't happened to us, right? And how we internalize that. So um, that energy can get trapped in our body, whether it be an emotional energy or it be from a physical accident or a force. So if we're not addressing the somatic piece of things, then sometimes, we will stay in this chronic state of discomfort and feel like we can't get to the bottom of this issue.
that's oh my god, that was like so helpful, and especially because like to me, I always just see like mind, body, soul, and like the soul is kind of the point of this podcast is like what the hell is a soul? Do we even have one? Like everyone has their own answers. So I kind of want to like now talk about like your career, but also with your philosophy on that. But first, I want to like learn what how your philosophy developed. So going back to your childhood, were you raised religious? Did you believe in religion at any point?
I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 12th grade.
Wow.
My family was not like devoutly religious, but I did have that constant Catholicism in my life from school.
Yeah.
That was interesting. There were, pieces of that that I absolutely identified with and could and still touch upon to this day. There are other pieces of that that I really caused me some pause and a lot of like I'm not sure that I want to claim that,
Hmm.
and that's all I'll say on that.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to my wife yesterday, and I said, Autumn emailed me this like bio she wrote, and I was like, it was way too long, and it was so well written, and I was like, I never knew what like I never saw your papers in college. I didn't, I know you're smart, but like I never saw your writing. I'm a writing teacher now, and like it was like mind blowing. Now you said you went to Catholic school. Oh, every person who's a good writer went to Catholic school. It is like undeniable. So yeah, yeah, and
Thank you.
I
That's a compliment from
yeah,
you.
of course. And I don't care about like what was good or bad about it, like in a legitimate sense. But I do care about like that because like would Catholicism believe in like what you believe in now? Like is retreat within like a spiritual also like movement like company? Like do you know what I'm trying to ask? I'm fumbling for the right word, but I know I'm getting the concept across.
Um, yeah, I think I understand what you're asking. I would say that, I don't I would like to I call myself a spiritual person now. I really
Yeah.
feel
Okay.
um that there is a higher power, and I feel that um trying to connect with that and whatever that means to you,
Hmm.
I think that that's important. And I don't necessarily think that there is one right way for that to look. Um, that being said, I've also had, some studies in science. And so I do also subscribe to the idea that energy can't be destroyed.
Cool.
So with that peace in mind, I am still kind of working through, what happens when we die, because
Hmm.
according to the Christian faith, like that's it. But according to science, energy can't be destroyed. It just goes on. So, there's a lot of
Yeah.
yeah, around that, right?
Does that question in what happens when you die, does that intimidate you? Does it intrigue you? Neither? Like, well, how does it make you feel?
Honestly, when I was a child, it really, really, really scared me. It was
Yeah.
like there's nothing that this void or this uncertainty, this huge
Mhm.
uncertainty of like it's just over, this finality, right? Um, as I've gotten older, I definitely don't feel as like scared by it, but I think what helps me is to think about the aspect that there isn't a finality, that this energy can and will be repurposed, reused for something different. Um,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
that's great. I mean, you're seriously answering all the questions exactly, not how I would answer them because how the hell would I know, but this is definitely what I'm trying to achieve is like this just who are we? And especially like when I interview someone who's my age, like in our 40s, like it's like an interesting time. Like I have two parents who are still alive, but one is not doing the best, and my wife's mom was like put in the hospital yesterday. We're all dealing with like two ends of like existence kind of, and then our own mortality. I'm curious, have you ever had any like supernatural experiences? Has anything ever like happened to you that you can't explain, or to someone like not you, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I would say that I've witnessed a miracle in my life. Yeah, with
Can you share it?
my father is now deceased, but he was sick for about 20 years, and one of the times he was hospitalized, he wasn't getting better to the point where they were going to release him, and so they were saying that they were going to have to put him into assisted like living care. Um, which would be fine if that's what he needed, but we kind of needed him to be making different different strides than he was making. And so my mother and myself and my sister, we were all, in his hospital room, and we just prayed. We prayed with him. And my dad was not a religious man that he would ask to say prayers in that kind of situation, but um he was nonverbal when we started this, and he started to say this prayer with us, and he then kind of started moving in the right direction and recovered enough that he could skip that step. And so it was pretty wild, honestly.
That's a great story. That's really cool. It's
I mean, call it what you want, but it was
well, I,
experience.
actually, I mean, that's kind of why I'm hosting this podcast. Is like, in America, I can't speak about any other culture, but in America, in our generation, people our age and especially older, I think it's like we may or may not witness what we would call a miracle, but then we're hesitant to use that word. We don't want to tell people like there's almost like this like for whatever reason our culture like like it actively suppresses our like instincts to feel that we're spiritual. Like it tells you materialism and all that. And it's interesting because like I talked about you helping me go shopping and stuff. Like we're both materialists. It's not like I don't enjoy earth. I'm on a laptop, I have a car, like but the fact that like we're hesitant to say that, and then like you're polite and you're being nice when you say like you don't have to call it a miracle, but to me it was. But it's interesting that we're almost like we're like pushed away from calling it that and like saying it. So anyway, I want to say that yes, of course I believe that's a miracle, or it's the opposite of a miracle. Prayer always works, and it's the opposite of a miracle. But that's a great story, and I knew your dad had passed away, but again, want to say I'm sorry because it's just hard.
Thank
But
you.
um, but yeah, I think this podcast, I'm like actually trying to collect stories like that, and I'm trying to like expand the awareness that like because people who see you on the street, you look like a normal person, and in our culture, we assume normal people don't believe in miracles. I would say that. Want more interesting conversations? Head over to mikeyop.com and sign up for a premium subscription. You'll get bonus podcasts, essays, and other goodies. Plus, it's the #1 way to support the show. Just go to mikeyop.com, mikeyop.com, and click subscribe, and we'll send you a link. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And I think you touched on something pretty remarkable when you said that our culture is pushing us into a reality where we're so disconnected from our bodies, where we don't believe that information that we're getting, where we don't feel connected to what we're feeling inside, because that's not what is culturally appropriate, or what we're being told is a culturally appropriate.
Yeah. And speaking of which, like what are okay, if you could like wave a wand and educate America, like so we're just keeping it again to our culture because I don't know about the rest of the world, in a good way. Like I politely don't know. What what would be something you would want everyone to like be educated about with their body specifically and communication and like with what your field is, your field of expertise?
I mean, I think it's just pretty simple, is that we have intuition. Our bodies know what we need, our bodies know what's best for us. The problem lies in getting quiet and being able to be quiet with ourselves, to be able to connect with that information and then use that information to create some sort of change.
That's really cool. How do you get quiet? Do you have like a routine?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard part, and that's the hardest part, I think, for everybody, right? It's just easier to jump into a distraction. But for me, it's been a practice. It's been a practice of doing some grounding exercises along the lines of meditation, and really just doing that over and over and over again to see what my baseline is, and then see how it's changing. Um, Also, you know, getting some movement outside in nature, that's always very helpful for me. Um, so even combining those things, but yeah, it's either moving my body or really just getting quiet and like kind of doing some grounding and just feeling into my body.
So this question is related to you as a person and the development of your life, and it's related to your career, but not specifically. When you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up? When you went to college, what did you want to be when you graduated? And then what changed, if anything, to make you who you are now?
Um, okay, this is a good question. So when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an ancient Egyptologist.
Awesome.
I saw a really cool episode of Reading Rainbow and I was just obsessed. And I really do still have a very strong interest in Egyptian history.
That's cool. Wow.
Um, However, as I was taking my anthropology classes at, and learning about the life of an anthropologist, I got real with myself and understood that maybe that lifestyle per se would not make me be the happiest, in terms of digging and all all the
Yeah,
different aspects of that. So I did switch gears and I had a hard time kind of figuring out what it was I wanted to do.
me too.
For a while I thought I wanted to work in fashion, which is why I had such a passion for helping you shop.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I did an internship at a fashion PR company.
Cool.
I was in college and realized that was not what I wanted to do. So it was a whole bunch of trying things that I thought I wanted to do and realizing that this was not for me that kind of led me to where I'm at today. I had a good friend who had a massage therapy practice when I was in another transition in my life,
Mhm.
and she allowed me to, or gifted me with a position there. So I learned the ins and outs of her business, and I really saw how her and her employees were really helping people, instead of just making money off of somebody else, making other people money, which was kind of what the positions I had found myself in before, making other people money.
Mhm.
Um, so after about a year of doing that, and trying a whole bunch of other different things, I finally gave in and went to massage school, and it really was the balance that I needed in my life.
Yeah. I can tell you as your friend, like I can tell you found it. Like when we reconnected, you just have like your smile, your confidence, like everything is there, and it's cool to see. Because I think life, like for people our age, again, and for anyone listening who's much older or younger, sorry, but like COVID hit us at a very weird time. Like it hit everyone at a weird time, but it was definitely in the time where a lot of us were trying to figure out what to do with the rest of our lives. And like, so it was like both too much time to think, but also time to reset and all that. So I'm just really happy to see that you're here. And yeah, I remember the fashion internship and I remember you like coming back to me like, actually, I don't think I love this, and it's terrifying when we're all in our early 20s and like, like I remember I played in a band for 2 years after college and I hated it. I was like, oh, my whole life I thought I wanted to be in a band and tour, and like, no, I don't even like it. So yeah, that process is really interesting. I do always give my guests the floor. I feel like I kind of ruined that because I kind of just asked you the question that most people would answer. But is there anything you want to add at all, like just about life, spirituality, practices, things like that?
Um, I'll just say, all we can do is do the best that we can, and that changes day by day. But how we can do that is really by having love and compassion for yourself, and really trying to show up for yourself first, and then that'll all ripple out.
That's awesome. That's great. I used to put quotes in the titles, and I would say it'll all ripple out. That would be a great quote, but too bad I'm not doing that anymore. So, all right. Well, Autumn, thank you so much. Seriously, I know you're busy, and I know time is precious for you, and I know that you're a little anxious about coming on a Zoom and doing a podcast. You did great. You're awesome. You will always be my friend for life. Thank you. I just want to say that to your face on this podcast. So if you ever need anything, you know how to find me. And to people watching, if you're not my friend, you can find me through the internet, but I don't know if I can be there for you and do everything for you. But I will continue to make this podcast, which is called Coffin Talk, and you can find it at mikeyop.com, which you can also sign up for the free emails that I write, which usually are funny stories and things like that. And once again, thank you, Autumn Kacian, for coming on the podcast. My name is Mike Oppenheim. You have been listening to or watching Coffin Talk, and we will see you soon.